sheriff in South Carolina give an order to shred a court document?
That I could not answer. I do not know.
A new state investigation underway in Marlboro County after piles of bench warrants ended up in the shredder. The allegations point to one man, suspended Marlboro County Sheriff Charles Lemon. Did you instruct anyone on your staff to shred bench warrants signed by the clerk of court?
The sheriff's office says this started years ago on the orders of the previous sheriff, and now deputies are working to round up the wanted men and women.
Men and women who skipped court dates and no one went looking for them. Well, here's Chief Investigator Jody Barr with Shredded Justice, a Queen City News investigation.
Before you this time, Mr. Marcus Anderson. He is here on a violation of court order protection.
8 months ago, DeMarcus Anderson missed a court date. He's been a wanted man ever since, but no one was working to hunt him down. Last August, the Marlboro County grand jury indicted him on 2 counts of domestic violence after his wife said he beat her in this gas station parking lot. Warrants show 2 months later, he confronted her at this grocery store in town, violating the domestic violence protective order. The grand jury again indicted Anderson last October on the protection order violation. 2 days later, he didn't show for a court hearing, and the court issued a bench warrant. The warrant ordered the sheriff's office to find DeMarcus Anderson and take him to jail. The county didn't know anything was wrong until a few months ago.
A victim kept contacting our office, and she was told that there was an active bench warrant from last fall, but the sheriff's office, the girl out there kept saying that there wasn't one.
Marlboro County Clerk of Court Joy Williams says she signed that bench warrant on Anderson. She knows because she still has the original copy in her files.
Bench warrants are done, signed, sent to the sheriff's office, and we thought the people were being looked for. We kept checking, and I think Chief Deputy Clerk Tracy, she checked with Larry Turner, and Larry checked on it. He couldn't find it either, but yet we had a copy of it in his file.
But this was a little more serious than a simple paperwork error. Something was happening inside the sheriff's office behind the clerk's back that could have gotten someone hurt.
During my digging, I found out that there was a warrant that had been issued, but the warrant had been shredded by someone here at the sheriff's office. I contacted the clerk's office and let them know that the warrant had been shredded by us, that they could provide me a new warrant or reissue a warrant that we would pick Mr. Anderson up. They reissued us a warrant the next day, or within 24 hours we had him in custody.
Mr. Anderson shares that he just got mixed up on his court dates. He had no intention of missing court.
Anderson sat in the county jail for more than 2 weeks waiting on this court hearing. His victim, who asked that we not show her face, finally got the court date she spent months asking for.
He had done things to me that my family just recently found out about. I'm due to be married in September.
The hearing also revealed DeMarcus Anderson has a history of domestic violence and not following court orders.
She's been on probation 5 times, 2 of which were for domestic violence with the same victim, and the most recent case was revoked.
The whole year since all that incident, I ain't never say nothing else to her.
Anderson's public defender wanted the judge to let his client go free until trial. Judge Paul Birch would not allow that.
I'm not going to grant a motion to lift a bench warrant. The information is just relayed here. Weddings coming up. That record, things are too volatile. We're going to keep him right there. And you need to give him a little lecture about staying in touch with you and also making sure he appears for these court terms.
Which means the bench warrant that was supposed to have taken DeMarcus Anderson off the streets last October will now keep him locked away for at least the next 2 months.
What I gonna do? Send it in?
I'll talk to you. Come on.
Hold on, man. No.
The judge has made his ruling. Come on. Let's go.
It's like, sir, I'm just saying.
And I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be around here. Come on. Let's get up. Come on, man. Come on.
DeMarcus Anderson's case is just the first of more than 100 cases where a bench warrant was shredded, and the work to figure out who did it and why is just beginning. Coming up.
All the bench warrants that were issued were shredded if I had signed them by the previous administration of the sheriff's office. All I know is he said he wasn't going to serve any warrants with my signature.
That he suspended Marlboro County Sheriff Charles Lemon.
You realize there's a new SLED investigation into that now, right?
When our shredded justice investigation continues after this.
This one is domestic violence. That was discharging a firearm, carrying a pistol, drugs, possession of a firearm by a person convicted of a violent crime. There's another domestic violence.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of having to do the same job twice.
That's pretty serious charges for people just walking the street and not coming to court.
The Marlboro County Clerk's Office is having to thumb through every single pending case file, hunting for one piece of paper.
This right here is what we're looking for, going through all the bench warrants, all the files.
If a file contains a bench warrant with the clerk's signature, the clerk asks the sheriff's office to check its files for a copy. If the copy doesn't exist there, the warrant was likely shredded, and the clerk has to issue a new bench warrant.
These are just a few of the bench warrants that have been reissued, and there's still a long way to go.
Deputies were supposed to serve the bench warrants, but the clerk found out last month the sheriff's office was shredding hers.
I didn't know until this victim kept coming forward, and she was just really upset because the man was not in jail, he wasn't going to court. And there's almost 500 pending bench warrants. Now, how many of those I signed and how many circuit court judge signed, we have yet to determine, but we're thinking it's over 100, maybe close to 200.
South Carolina clerks have the power to issue a bench warrant. The Supreme Court's form even gives the option of either the clerk or the judge to sign it. But you have no idea how long this has been going on?
No.
Williams says she doesn't know why the sheriff's office wouldn't serve her warrants and guesses suspended Sheriff Charles Lemon maybe didn't think she had the authority to do so.
I just wish that the previous administration out there had checked on it instead of shredding the warrants, or even just turned the warrants back in and said, I'm not going to serve them if it's got your name on it. Signing a bench warrant on somebody that's charged with murder because he didn't come to court. You see the murder right there.
Accused murderer Sharon Lamar Bennett was in this stack.
That on January 23rd, 2018, at Evans Correctional Institution, located at 610 Highway 9 West, Marlboro County, South Carolina, the defendant, Sharon Bennett, an inmate within the South Carolina Department of Corrections, along with his co-defendant, did murder inmate Deshaun Williams by stabbing him in the head with a homemade weapon, a shank, causing his death.
A decade ago, Sharon Bennett,
I'll never forget that face,
was forever seared into Aubrey Cade's memory.
This man was forced into our lives in 2013.
Aubrey and her best friend, April Enfinger, went out to a low-country bar to celebrate.
This is the last photo that was taken the night that April was killed.
A fight broke out inside involving Bennett and a group of bikers. The fight eventually moved outside.
One of the shots is the one that hit my best friend and took her life.
April Enfinger, a wife and mother, lay on the floor dying. She was 32 years old. Sharon Bennett, a convicted felon at the time, was charged with murder. He ended up getting a plea deal from the Ninth Circuit Solicitor's Office, pleading guilty to involuntary manslaughter and firing into a dwelling. Instead of the life sentence he initially faced, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison.
And he only served 5, maybe that.
In January 2018, just a year and a half into a state prison stint in Marlboro County, investigators accused Sharon Lamar Bennett of another killing. They charged him with using a homemade shank to stab Deshaun Shorty Williams to death. And this is where this all gets complicated. SCDC released Bennett to the Marlboro County Jail to face the prison murder charge. Judge Michael Holt set bond at $25,000 and GPS monitoring. The county freed Bennett in December 2021. But that never should have happened because the feds had a hold on him for violating supervised release from a conviction years before of being a felon in possession of a gun. But Marlboro County says that federal hold paperwork did not follow Bennett from SCDC.
And there's still a long way to go.
In June 2022, the clerk issued a bench warrant when Bennett did not show for a hearing. The sheriff's office says that bench warrant was shredded, but no one knows when. When Bennett was freed, he moved to Michigan. Nothing in his case file shows Judge Holt allowed him to leave South Carolina, and the judge told us no comment when we asked if he ever gave Bennett permission to leave the state. Michigan deputies caught Bennett with a gun last year. He pleaded guilty to that gun charge and got a year in jail. But Bennett would not leave Michigan a free man. The U.S. Marshals nabbed him in Michigan in January. The feds asked a judge to send him back to South Carolina and to not set him free.
The history here involves convictions for firearms, not just possession, but discharge of firearms, which included the loss of a life, was reduced to an involuntary manslaughter, but that's still a homicide offense. You never actually should have been in a position to come to Michigan if the detainer had been honored by the state court in South Carolina. So the court cannot find by clear and convincing evidence that you do not pose a danger, and accordingly the court is going to order that you be detained.
Sharon Bennett is now sitting in the Charleston County Jail awaiting his fate on the federal supervision violation and the Marlboro County murder indictment. Meanwhile, how serious of an issue is this?
I would think shredding court documents would be a serious, some type of offense.
The investigation into how this started led to the Marlboro County Sheriff's Office and ended in an office just down the hall from Chief Deputy Larry Turner.
This is one of the file cabinets the warrants are kept in.
Chief Turner says one person was responsible for entering bench warrants into the system and getting them served, a woman named Sandy Wilkes. Wilkes has worked for the county for 20 years, including serving under suspended Sheriff Charles Lemon. Lemon was the center of our lost trust investigation, where his lead investigator accused the sheriff of corruption. And during that investigation is where we obtained this body camera video showing Lemon involved in a jailhouse assault on an inmate in 2021. The grand jury indicted Lemon on those charges from this video, and the governor suspended him from office in December 2021.
I actually talked to the individual here at the Sheriff's Office over our warrants, and she was advised under the old administration that any warrants that were issued by the clerk of court, that they would not serve them for them to shred them.
Why would a sheriff in South Carolina give an order to shred a court document?
That I could not answer. I do not know.
We asked Wilkes for an interview, but she did not respond. The day SLED agents questioned her about the warrant shredding. We caught up with her on her way out of the sheriff's office. Can I talk to you before you head out? Were you ever instructed by Sheriff Lemon to shred bench warrants signed by the clerk? Did you think that was the right thing to do, is shred warrants instead of serve them? That same day in late July, two SLED agents went to the Marlboro County Courthouse to interview Clerk Joy Williams. Agents spent more than an hour gathering information. Our hunt for suspended Sheriff Charles Lemon led us to Latta, a small town in neighboring Dillon County. We found Lemon driving a dump truck there and found out he's now the head of the town's street department. Hey, Mr. Lemon, this is Jody Barr with the Queen City News out of Charlotte. Lemon wouldn't answer our calls or emails. This is my card. It's got my mobile if he changes his mind.
Okay.
Thank you. And the town wouldn't give him our messages. We found him on his way into the office a few weeks ago. Hey, did you instruct anyone on your staff to shred bench warrants signed by the clerk of court? Is there anything at all you want to say before we air this report? Do you think
those bench warrants signed by the clerk should have been served instead of shredded?
My court date is appeared to be September 5th.
Yes, sir.
And if you got any questions, talk to my attorney.
He will not return my messages. But this is a different matter than the court date. This is about the shredding of warrants. There's nothing you want the public to know? You realize there's a new SLED investigation into that now, right? Have they talked to you?
The clerk of court is still reviewing those pending case files, working to identify every missing bench warrant, but she does not have a time frame on how long that may all take. SLED tells me its agents are still investigating and would not give us an estimate on how long it could take the agency to wrap this all up. And we'll continue, though, to stay on this until it's all settled.